Eini Mesukoi
Hello everyone, this is the second in the series of LeDavid, Conversation and Controversies, and today I'd like to speak about what does it make a difference, why we say it. So just to remind everyone, there were a bunch of reasons given. One was the famous Midrash Tehillim that says it talks about this period of time, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, etc. The other is that it reminds us of the Yud Gimel Midot because God's name is there 13 times. And a third reason is it's a sgula to totally take care of you and nullify all terrible decrees against you. And finally, it's just a way to encourage people to daven, even if their prayers are not answered. With regard to reason number one, namely, it has something to do with this period of time. And regarding reason number two, that it reminds us of the 13 attributes of mercy, there is ramifications halachically, in my opinion, to those two reasons. Namely, if we see it as something that reminds us of this period of time, it's like a shir shel yom. So just like on Rosh Chodesh we add Barchi Nafshi, so too at this period of time of tshuva, we add this particular psalm because it reminds us of Ori, the Yishi, Ori meaning Rosh Hashanah, Yishi meaning Yom Kippur, and therefore it's like a shir shel yom, it's like the psalm of the day. Or, as the Panim Yafot said, it reminds us of the Yud Gimel Midot, the 13 attributes of mercy. Those two reasons, in my opinion, will have ramifications halachically, and that goes to when do you say it? So, the Mata Ephraim, which is the source of most, and the Mishnah Berurah both say that you say it at the end of davening. In the words of the Mata Ephraim, Achar Gmar Hatfila. And he gives rules and regulations what to do on a day with Musaf, on a day with Rosh Chodesh, when to say it. But let's just take a regular Shachris in the month of Elul. He basically says that you should say the Shir Shel Yom first, because Shir Shel Yom is Tadir, more frequent, and then say this. Clearly, he sees it at Shachris as a Shir Shel Yom, because you say it after the Shir Shel Yom. Indeed, the Chidah in one place does say to say it after Aleinu. Once again, the Chidah saying it after Aleinu places it in a Shir Shel Yom kind of an episode. However, the Chidah in the Sansan Yair says something totally different. Not to say it at the end of davening, but rather, at Shachris, to say it, and I quote, Achar Tefillah Me'ashmona Esrei, to say it after Shmona Esrei. And just in case you don't believe that little line, in the Likutei Maharich, the Maharich was a very important book because he basically was a Rav in Galicia, but he recorded a lot of the minhagim of Ashkenaz. He comes along and says that indeed there is a minhag, not to say it at the end of davening, but rather yesh mekomot shomrim oto achar tfilat yudchet kodem chatzi Kaddish. Now, why would you say it there? Obviously, as he explains, because if it's like the Yud Gimel Midot, that's exactly where we say the Yud Gimel Midot. Anyone that davens Nusach Sfarad or Sfaradi knows that right after the Chazarat Hashatz, we say Yud Gimel Midot before Tachanun. So that's exactly where we would say something that looks like the Yud Gimel Midot. So if it's like Shir Shel Yom, its place is at the end of davening. But if it's like the Yud Gimel Midot, then its place should be, indeed, right after Shmona Esrei. And this, taking it one step further, would explain what the Likutei Maharich says regarding a day of Kriyas HaTorah. Now, what do we do when we take out the Torah on Yantiv? We say Yud Gimel Midot. Some people say it every time they take out the Torah. It's written in some Sidurim. So indeed, the Likutei Maharich says, Yesh noagim la'omro b'yom Kriyas HaTorah b'ptichat ha'aron. Be'efshar, as he explains, dekevan shenichlal bo Yud Gimel Midot, yesh makom la'omro b'ptichat ha'aron, kamo shomrim b'yom tov Yud Gimel Hamidot b'ptichat ha'aron. So indeed, if you view it as a Shir Shel Yom, its place would be at the end of davening. But if you view it as sort of a 13 attributes of mercy, then its place would be either after Shmona Esrei, like we do before we say Tachanun, or on days when you take out the Torah, or perhaps both. How would you explain the Elef HaMagin? The only source I found, Elef HaMagin, that says to say it not at Shachris and Mincha, but rather to say it at Ma'ariv, Mishnah Berurah, and the Mata Ephraim say Shachris Mincha, but the Elef HaMagin says Ma'ariv, which is a very common custom, at least in Israel, and most places Nusach Ashkenaz outside of Israel. Obviously, Ma'ariv is a very strange time to say Shir Shel Yom. It's also a very strange time to say Yud Gimel Midot, because we all know that the most dangerous time to say Yud Gimel Midot is at night. Indeed, regarding Slichos, the Magen Avram says explicitly, "En lomar kodem chatzot halayla shlom slichot v'shum Yud Gimel Midot v'shum panim la'olam." So the bottom line is that it's a very dangerous time to say Yud Gimel Midot, so that cannot be the reason to say it at Ma'ariv. So it must mean that it's not a Shir Shel Yom if we say it at Ma'ariv. It's also not the Yud Gimel Midot, but rather it's the other reasons, the reasons of it's a sgula for a good life, to annul decrees, or it's just a means to say keep on davening and keep on davening. So the first ramification we found is when to say it. The second ramification, Kaddish. This is a big issue in Shul. Do you say Kaddish after LeDavid? Do you combine it with other Kaddishim, with whatever? Bottom line is, if you see it as a Shir Shel Yom, combine it with the special Shir Shel Yom. So on Rosh Chodesh, you'll say the special Shir Shel Yom of Barchi Nafshi. Then you'll say the special Shir Shel Yom of LeDavid, and you'll say Kaddish. And he says explicitly, don't say two Kaddishes, say one, because Lo la'arbot b'Kaddishim. But you should say, he says, a different Shir Shel Yom Kaddish than the LeDavid. Namely, if it's a Wednesday, Hayom Yom Revi b'Shabbat El Nekamot Hashem Kaddish, and then LeDavid afterwards with another Kaddish. Why? So you shouldn't mix up this Shir Shel Yom with another Shir Shel Yom. But if it's a Yud Gimel Midot thing, then there's no reason to say Kaddish. We never say Kaddish after Yud Gimel Midot, and there's no reason to add a Kaddish over here. So from this perspective, we found two nafkaminas as to why we say it. Number one is going to be its placement in our daily services. Will we say it as a Shir Shel Yom at the end of davening, or will we say it as a Yud Gimel Midot in the middle of davening, either after Shemona Esrei or after, or when we take out the Torah? And number two, do we say a Kaddish afterwards? Finally, just to add a little halacha at the end, Rav Moshe Sternbuch says that if indeed you're in a minyan, your minhag is to say it at Shachris and Mincha, like the Mata Ephraim in the Mishnah Berurah says, and then you get to a minyan at Ma'ariv where they're saying it. He basically says that at the end of the day you don't have to say it again, but namely, it doesn't hurt you to say it again. And you shouldn't go ahead and say, hey, I'm a stickler, I said it twice, and that's it. No. The bottom line is, if the tzibur is saying it, say it. So basically, if you say it again, then maybe the Shir Shel Yom thing you took care of at Shachris. At Mincha you took care of a Sgula thing, or a Yud Gimel Midot thing, whatever it might be, depends when you say it. But at Ma'ariv, you're saying it as an additional davening, namely, on these things, be a mensch, and do what the tzibur does. It doesn't hurt.